Hello! Hi there! Welcome to Thimlich Vr UNESCO World Heritage Site. Now, around here, we say Arwaki. It means welcome. So, I have welcomed you. Can you say Arwaki? Arwaki? Very good. Now, my name is Otieno, but people refer to me as Japonj. And Japonj is a traditional Luo term, the Luo being my people, and it means teacher. So because I'll be your guide and showing you around, please feel free to call me Japonj. Thimlich Vr is located in Migori County's Nyatike sub-county, which is about 181 kilometers south of Kisumu. It is built on a gently sloping hill and is about 46 kilometers northwest of Migori town. Now, the word Ohinga actually means stone enclosure, but it literally means frightening, dense stone enclosure. It was gazetted as a national monument in 1980 and is managed by the National Museums of Kenya. It is protected by law under the National Museums and Heritage Act of 2006-2009. It was inscribed by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, as a World Heritage Site in 2018. It occupies about 52 acres and is surrounded by indigenous forests, providing rich biodiversity. Thimlich Vr is a living testimony to the unique cultural tradition of stone-walled fortresses that lasted a long period of time, from around 1650 Common Era to 1950 Common Era. This site is the largest and best preserved of the 138 sites containing 521 stone structures built around Lake Victoria. The magnificence of its walls and the layout of the site is actually pointing to the evolution from simple to more complex structures. Now, I know that you can see a traditional Luo homestead behind me, and we'll get to that, but let's get to the main event. Oh, and again, Arwaki. Thimlich Vr is regarded as a historic Luo site, but the truth of the matter is because of successive occupation and displacement by different linguistic groups, it was home to very, very many communities. Now, historians and archaeologists have done studies, and the notable pattern was that most of the communities here, if not all, practiced a pastoral lifestyle, with cattle being key to the economy. Now, the emphasis on the value system being on livestock, large herds required large tracts of land. And once the human population and the livestock population was actually too much to be held within the fortresses, others would be established. Now, oral tradition has it that the first settlers were actually Bantu, and this was the Wagire and the Kamageta clan. Later on, Nilotic groups came in, and this was the Kaboch Kocheng and Kadem. Towards the end of the 20th century, there was the Kanyamwa clan, who are still there till date and dot the surrounding areas. Let's go to Kocheng. Please, follow me. Oh, and mind your head. This archaeological site is a complex of Ohingmi, consisting of one main Ohinga with its adjuncts and extensions, Kochieng, and 4 Ohingni. Now the Ohingni were named after the 4 brothers who last settled here, and this was Kochieng, Kakuku, Kokech, and Kolwoch. Now, these strong defensive walls were also known as hill forts, and they were primarily to protect the livestock from animals and raiders, who at a later stage included even the Maasai. Now, my friend, let me tell you something. It would be very difficult to attack this Ohingni because of the narrowness of the gates. Now, I'm standing here on top of one of 2 watchtowers, and this is where the young watchmen would stand guard with spear in hand to welcome visitors and defend against foe. These walls are freestanding and have no dug foundation. In fact, these oval walls would intersect using intermittent buttresses to add to the stability. Ah, there you are. I thought I'd lost you. Now, these gates measure 1 meter wide and 1.5 meters high. And this was both a technological and defensive innovation. In fact, you'd have to stoop to enter the gates, just like I did. Now, the height of these walls is between 1.2 to 4.2 meters. And in fact, the thickness would range from 1 meter up to about 3 meters. And this was a technique to ensure the maximum strength at the gates. Now, follow me to Kochieng. In the first instance, this structure is actually built in the model of an oval plan, with the main gate being on a downhill slope. Smaller enclosures are included within larger enclosures, with the main stone-built cattle kraal being in the center of the compound wall. Circular depressions found within this enclosure, measuring about 5 meters in diameter, have been associated with cooking places, with raised platforms representing house pits. Now, house pits are domestic areas, and this has been proved by the associated materials found during excavation at this site. Now, allow me to take you to a traditional Luo homestead, and I wish it was mine, but maybe we'll have time for that after this tour. That is, if you have the time. Please, follow me. In the early to mid 20th century, each traditional Luo homestead, called Dala, typically consisted of an enclosed compound with a euphobic hedge, or ojuok. Now, these Dala consisted of an extended polygamous family unit, whereby each wife and her children would have their own dwelling and associated outbuildings. The first wife, the Mikai, now, she was the one who graduated the man from bachelorhood to marriage. She was the one who actually first bore him children, and she was known as Minji, which means mother of the people. And she enjoyed the highest status in the Dala. Then there was the second wife, and she was known as Nyachira. And the third wife, she was known as Reru. The man of the homestead actually had his own hut. It was named Abila. And he used this hut to entertain his fellow male guests. And the unmarried sons within the Dala would also have their own huts, and they were known as Simba. And they were the entrance to the Dala. If you look behind you, you'll see them. With, of course, the firstborn son having his Simba to the right of the entrance to the Dala. Now, the reason why the sons were put towards the entrance of the Dala was that they were best placed to defend the Dala should the need arise. Can you smell that? I can smell something cooking. I think the women of the village are about to prepare us a meal. The most important dish among the Luo was kuon, a sort of pounded meal. The major crops grown in the region were sorghum, millet, beans, among others. Gender played an important role in allocating duties and responsibilities when it came to procuring food, preparing and eating it among the Luo. Both men and women played a role in procuring food. Women's primary role was preparing food such as grinding sorghum or millet on grinding stones, cooking the food and serving it. The Luo believed in sharing their food. You had to share your food with your relatives and friends. The Luo saying, "Chamgiwadu," translates into "eat with your brother," and illustrates the communal sense of responsibility and togetherness that is shared among the Luo. It means that food was only significant when shared with others. I hope you haven't gotten too hungry watching those ladies cooking, but for now, let's make our way back to the main Ohinga. Kochieng. I know. You won't forget it again. Where we are seated would have been the recreational area. And we can see this because of the fact that Ajua, which is the Luo name for the bao board game, was played by the carvings in this rock. Now, Ajua was a traditional outdoor daytime entertainment activity and was played only after engaging in a hard day's work. The game was played by men, but primarily by the elder men in society and in public. Now, I want you to close your eyes for about 5 seconds, and when you open them, you will find an ancient game of Ajua being played. Go on. Trust me. Close your eyes. This is Kokech. It is the second largest of the 4 enclosures. It has twin gates as well as 2 enclosures within the site. There are also small circular features that indicate possible kitchen and storage facilities, as well as neatly arranged corridors that indicate planned proper usage of space as well as drainage. Oh, here comes one of the masons. Why don't you follow him to get a glimpse into how these walls were made? Go on. Take your time. The site is a system of dry stone traditional settlements exhibiting exceptional indigenous ingenuity that employed predetermined choice of undressed stone meticulously arranged in a traditional 3-phase architectural technique to construct structurally stable and extensive stone complexes that have withstood the vagaries of nature. The walls were constructed in 3 phases that ran concurrently, where the outer and inner phases of the walls were joined together using a middle 3rd phase consisting of smaller stones that pressed down the end of the stones of the outer and inner ones. Due to the lack of distinct shapes of the stones used, the walls do not exhibit any course line as is common in modern architecture, but the meticulous nature and craftsmanship of these structures is visible from the way the walls exhibit fine patterned finishing. You may have noticed that unlike other enclosures, Kokech has got two gates side by side, the twin gates. Now, was one for men, the other for women? Or was one for large livestock, the other for small livestock? These questions remain unanswered, but have a think upon that whilst we go to visit the house on the hill, better known as Thimlich. Welcome to the last stop on our tour. This is Thimlich. Thimlich is the fourth enclosure, but the third largest Ohinga. It is located at the peak of a hill and stands like a watchtower over Thimlich Ohinga. It has a cattle kraal, and cattle kraals were strategically distributed within the enclosure with the entrance facing away from the main gates. And this was primarily for security for the livestock. Garden fence structures were small enclosures close to the outer wall, and these were seen to be as orundu for growing vegetables. Now, orundu is a local term meaning garden kitchen in the homestead, and these were used for growing crops and vegetables to supplement what was found on the larger farms. It is believed that any activity geared towards destroying these walls would bring down the wrath of the spirits that inhabit the walls and the people they protect. This belief went a long way to ensure that this site is protected. Aren't we privileged to be within these walls? I know I am. Ah, do you hear that? It sounds like the beating of drums. Yes, it's my brothers and sisters, and they've come to welcome you. We've come to the end of our tour, but please feel free to visit the National Museums of Kenya website and download the app for more information. And here, as we say, goodbye, Oriti. So my friends, Oriti.